www.thegreatwhitebrotherhood.org.
Cosmic consciousness. Why do some people get to experience the all of the universe? Why are some people instantly awakened at the darkest moments of their lives? And why do some people go through a near-death experience, NDE? Some people have experienced true phenomenons, whereas, they are taken into places that we can only dream of, and shown or experience things that we can only dream of, and they are forever changed. They see all as one, and feel the love of God, and all of creation. They know that nothing is out of order, and that all is as it should be, and at no time do they feel unsafe. They realize they are immortal, and that they are at home. Some go where there is nothing, and experience the nothingness of all that there is. We know these experiences as NDEs, awakenings, or enlightenment, but why do these experiences happen? This rare phenomenon, known as cosmic consciousness, happens to all who are ready for that experience. It has nothing to do with the amount of meditation one does, nor has it to do with prayer, religion, faith, trust in God, nor anything else that man can be familiar with. It is a state that comes from the higher self, which decides when one should experience that moment. The higher self is always living in that state, and although, on one level, the higher self is living in a world where nothing exists, just before that level of consciousness, the higher self is also living in a world of total oneness with all life, cosmic consciousness. Occasionally, the higher self decides to give the person that he is guiding that experience, for its own reasons. So, it will suddenly link with the consciousness of that person, and pour its knowledge into that person, who suddenly experiences cosmic awareness, cosmic consciousness. Equally, and even more rarely, the higher self can take its ward into the next level, where there is absolutely nothing with which to relate. This happened to Bob Sanders. Had he stayed in that area, he would have got over the shock of being in that state, and would have felt the absolute bliss of connecting with the origin of all life. As it was, he retained sufficient awareness of his incarnation, to be in a state of shock, at suddenly finding himself in an area that he could not comprehend, and so the fight/flight part of ego, was just wanting to get him out of that situation. Thus, his higher self released him back to his world, to save him from the trauma. The state that Bob went to is, as far as we know, the ultimate step, in the process of advancing towards God, without dissolving into the Godhead. We wish to state, that experience has little, or nothing to do, with one's personal level of spirituality. It is that Bob's higher self, which like all higher selves, is connected to God, decided to take Bob into its home for a moment, to speak to Bob. If we can use an easily understood analogy, it may be compared to a schoolboy, being summoned into the headmaster's study, for a dressing down. The pupil would be under no delusion of the social and educational difference, between him, and the headmaster. The higher self is both single and unified, by which we mean that, each and every object, human, animal, vegetable, or mineral, has a personal higher self, but these higher selves will eventually, when the individuality of its charge ceases, join with its maker, the Godhead, and dissolve into that entity, God. While it has a charge to care for, it remains to a certain extent, separate from God, so that it can concentrate on its function, which is to guide its charge, back to God. Obviously, in the case of a plant, which has a relatively short lifespan, the higher self soon returns to God, where, as in the case of a stone, a planet, a galaxy, or a universe, vast amounts of time pass, until the higher self can return. Humans live for a long time also, so the higher self helps and guides humans for many millions of years, measured in earth time, before a person is ready to release its contact with its higher self, and both of them, the spirit of the individual, and the higher self, can return to Source, God. But, to return to this strange experience, that the higher self of certain people are allowed to experience, we are not able to tell you why the higher self does this. The higher self of individuals, is outside of the comprehension of even the wisest of us, as we are still, all of us, enwrapped in one form of incarnation, or another. We know a certain amount concerning what a higher self is, and the mechanics of its functions, but we do not have any control over higher selves, so cannot predict when and why they act as they do. It is close to God, and, by the very fact that we are conscious, sentient, and able to think in human form, indicates that we are not close to the moment when we merge with God, and both we and higher self becomes truly one with God again.
Thank you for watching this video lesson. Please visit www.thegreatwhitebrotherhood.org for more lessons and free downloadable books.